artists, welcome to your flowers and vase painting class. In front of you, you should have your blank canvas long ways like so, a cup of water, a paper towel, your large and your small brush. For your colors, you do not have to pour them out onto the wax paper. That wax paper is there for mixing on later. I just poured mine out so you can see the colors a little bit better. So again, you don't have to pour yours out. This is your mixing paper. But for our colors, you should have light blue, green, red, and then your black and white. If you do not have all these materials, not a problem. You're welcome to push pause and come back to us whenever you're ready. All right, the first thing we're going to do is grab both of our brushes and dip them into a cup of water and swirl our brushes around and get them nice and clean. And once you're done, gently pat them onto your paper towel. And just be sure after you're done washing your brushes, always gently pat them onto your paper towel next so your paint doesn't drip. The first thing we're going to be doing onto a canvas is creating a number 7. That just lets us know where the vase is going to be later. And how we're going to do that is please take your big brush and line it up with the bottom left corner of your canvas. And take your smaller brush, dip it into that light blue, just a tiny bit lower than where the gold stops. You're going to come down and make a little dot. So I've lined my big brush up with the bottom left hand corner, and where the gold is, I'm going to come down just a little bit and make a dot. Once I'm done, I'm going to make another dot that's going to be going side to side. The center of my canvas is about right here. You can use your fingers to kind of measure, make sure they're pretty even. But I'm just going to guess that the center of my canvas is right here. I'm going to come down and line it up with that blue dot and just come in just a little bit to the left. So about here. So again, I found the center of my canvas, came down, and just a little bit over to the left, I made another dot. Once you're done making those 2 dots, go ahead and connect them with your small brush and your light blue. You're going to go ahead and continue that line over to the left as well. Just have that little space, because our vase is actually going to carry over to the left of our canvas. And again, with your small brush and your light blue, bring this line all the way down. Just drag your small brush. Don't worry about carrying it underneath because we'll paint the bottom part all light blue later. So again, from left to right, and this is the top to bottom, and our vase will be here later on. Once you're done, you can go ahead and wash and dry your small brush. Put it off to the side. You can grab your big brush and dip it into the light blue. We're going to paint all the space right here and all this space right here with our light blue. Again, avoid this area right here. What we'll do is just kind of paint it in an up and down motion, avoiding this area right here. And we're just going to paint the front of our canvas right now. But we do not want to paint where our vase is going to be later on. Again, big brush, you can just dip it into the container with the light blue paint. Make sure your paint is nice and smooth. Nice long brush strokes up and down. Always go back for more. Just be sure it's not dripping off your brush. That means you have too much on there. So this front part is all light blue, working in an up and down motion. No bumps. You want a smooth canvas. Double check, make sure it's all nice and clean. Perfect. When you're done, just put your big brush off to the side. Again, take your time, no rush. But when you're done, go ahead and put your big brush off to the side and use your small brush and the white paint and put 2 scoops of white paint with your small brush onto your wax paper. So small brush, 2 scoops of white, and then you can go ahead and wash and dry your small brush. So blue in the background, 2 scoops of white with your small brush onto your wax paper. This is our next step. Again, if you're still working on this step, not a problem, but I'm gonna dip my big brush that still has blue on it, and I'm gonna make 4 lines going side to side, and I can come back to this white right here, 3 and 4, so 4 long lines going that way with white, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 long lines going that way with white. And once I'm done, I'm just gonna go over them with my brush. I just kind of move my brush side to side first, so left to right on this top part. If you feel like you got too much white on there, just let it dry and clean your brush and go back to blue. You can just build the blue paint on top. But you want to go from left to right, just add a little bit of white. And then down here, you're going to be going up and down. And just kind of making all that blue and white work together. So first you want to go side to side with your white. Remember you made 4 white lines. Then you want to go up and down with your white. And remember you made 4 lines of white going up and down. Perfect. And if you feel like you put too much white on there, let it dry, and then you can go back with more blue. And it looks like these lines are overlapping these lines. So you want to do side to side first and then build your long lines going this way. And when you're done, you don't have to clean your brush. You can just go back to the blue in the container. It's my big brush. I go back to my blue. I'm going to start painting the bottom just with the blue that I have on my brush. There should still probably be a little bit of white on it, so it kind of works with the front area. You can always go back to the white that you have on your wax paper if you need to. So left to right on the bottom. On the left side, we don't want to paint in the vase area, so we're just going to paint with more blue on our big brush above this line, and I'm just kind of going up and down with our big brush and our blue paint. If you need to leave your canvas flat on the table, that's totally fine. Just be very careful. And then more blue paint. I'm going to be painting up and down. Making sure I have all of that right side. So there's no white peeking through. So that whole right side is painted, and then all of the top part is painted too. And again, I'm going to go side to side, kind of hide it on the bottom. The whole top area will be painted, going side to side with my big brush and the blue paint. And all I have that's white is that bottom left area and the front. You can always go back and clean things up if you need to. Take your time with your background. And once you're done with your blue and white background, you can go ahead and wash your big brush really well and dry it. To make sure all of the blue is off of it, you can always wrap it around with your paper towel and kind of get all the sides off of it, or all the areas of gold that might still have paint on it. You can take your time. Always welcome to push pause on the video if you need additional time. In about 1 minute, I'll show you the next step, and you're welcome to push pause if you need to. Our next step will be creating black stripes on our vase. All right, whenever you're ready, you're going to grab your small brush and your black paint, and we're going to start creating stripes on our vase. Be sure this blue is nice and dry, and if you want to watch the first couple steps before you start to kind of give your blue and white some time to dry, that's probably a good idea. But small brush black paint, I'm going to make a line to make sure that there's no white peeking through. I'm going to go over to smooth it out. Just drag that brush. And then I'm going to come down just a little bit with my small brush and my black paint. And then I'll go over to the left by just dragging my brush. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I'll carry those two lines over to the left because I am going to be continuing my stripe to the left. And once you're done, you can use your small brush to fill in this area right here. Just be sure to stay within those lines. It's kind of painting side to side. Painting side to side over here as well. Always go back and touch it up by dragging your brush one side to the other, kind of clean up that outline. Perfect. Take your time, but you want to maybe use your fingers or even your brush to kind of get the same size of distance between the first one and the second one. Make a little dot right here. So I'm going to leave a space for the white and then make sure the same distance is carried through. I'm going to make a line going this way, and I'll come down to meet up to this dot the best I can. And I'll even carry over the lines on the left side. So it's going to be black, white, and then I can paint inside this space black with my small brush. If you accidentally got some black in the white striped area, you can always let it dry and then go back over it with white, and we'll do that at the end. So at the end, once everything is nice and dry, if you wanted to clean it up with white paint, you could. I'm going to drag that brush. Like so. And again, be sure your blue is nice and dry so the wet blue paint and the wet black paint don't mix together. And there is your second stripe. You don't have to be perfect. We're not using tape to have a perfect straight line or a ruler. When you're done, you can kind of use your fingers again to kind of mark where you want that third stripe to be. To the side, and then you can fill it in. Again, don't worry if you get some black inside of the white stripes. Just do your best to keep inside those lines. You can always go back and touch it up. Use my small brush and start in the corner. Just kind of drag it from one side to the next. Kind of cleaning up that outline a little bit. Same down here. I'm just going to drag my brush from side to side. Same thing for my next stripe. Can I mark it? Oop. Fill it in. And we are going to make one more stripe on the bottom. If you have more stripes or need room for more stripes, not a problem. Just going to keep that pattern going. I'm going to use my fingers. I can use my brush to kind of measure an equal amount of distance between each one. Put that right here. Probably just going to go all the way down with my black paint. And I have no space of white underneath, but if you do, that's not a problem. Just be sure you're kind of keeping the same width of your stripes. Oop, forgot about the side. Carry this over to the side. Paint all the way to the bottom here, and you can even make a line to make sure it's nice and clean. But this is going to be your last black stripe. If your stripes are thicker or thinner, not a problem. Just make it work within your vase size. If you want, you can let that black dry for a couple minutes and then go back and give your black another coat so it's a little bit more solid. You won't be able to see any of that white canvas peeking through behind that black stripe. And again, if you got some black on the areas of white, not a problem at the end. If you wanted to go back and kind of touch up the white, you can. And I'll show you how at the end. Make sure that the sides are nice and neat. Outline those again. And when you're done, you can go ahead and wash and dry your small brush. And next will be our roses. Again, take your time with your background, take your time with your stripes. Our next step will be our roses. In just a moment, I'm going to move on. But again, you're welcome to push pause on the video if you'd like. I'll be using my big brush and my red paint. I'll be making circles where our roses go, and then I'll start filling in with red and white. All right, take your time with your background and your stripes, but once you're ready, you can take your big brush and dip it into the red paint. I'm going to show you how to make the circles for your roses first. Then I'll start filling them in a couple minutes. So I want to kind of lay out where my roses are going to be. I have 3 bigger ones. So my first one's going to be about here. So here's the corner of my canvas. I'm going to come down and make a nice big circle. Be sure your blue is nice and dry. And again, if you wanted to just watch the first couple of little mini steps first and then jump in, that is absolutely fine. So big brush, red paint. I'm just going to make a big circle, a big rose. Let me get a little bit bigger. This one. I don't want to fill it in. I just want to make the outside shape of it. So there's my first one. My second rose that I'm going to make is going to be a little bit off to the right and higher up. And again, it's pretty similar size to this one. I'm going to get kind of close to that one. I'm going to go all the way up and a little bit off to the right. So again, look at the size of the flower. Here to here is a good size. Same from here to here. Look at the spacing between them. Nice big circles. My third one, I'm going to come down just a little bit. Do not touch your black paint if it's still wet. But there's a little bit of space between the two. I'm going to leave some space on the left. Make another almost as big as those flowers, but just a little bit smaller. It's going to come off a little bit to the right. So I have 3 red circles with my big brush. On the left, I'm gonna have like a backwards C shape just to show half of this rose right here. So just kind of underneath this one, almost gonna, actually they're gonna go ahead and touch. So let's get a little bit closer, a little bit bigger with it as I work it out. So you have that backwards C shape right there. These are gonna get really close so they can actually touch as well. So it's that backward C shape, just kind of filled in that space. And then you have a mini one right here. Be careful if your black paint is wet. Go, and it's gonna touch this one and this one. Be careful of your black paint because it's still probably wet, so you wanna avoid that black paint. If you accidentally get some black on there, no problem, just wipe it off on your paper towel. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 circles and a backward C shape. You're gonna have a flower right here between these two, and it is gonna touch this one and that one. So a nice circle shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll go in there and just kind of clean it up later. This one kind of carries off to the side again. Be very careful not to touch your black paint. I'm gonna have a little bit peeking through right there. Be very careful of your black paint. Come out like so. And there'll be one more rose. There's some space between this one and this one. I'll start right here. Just gonna come off to the side. So there is a little bit of space between this one and this one. It's my last rose right there. Once you're done, you don't have to clean your big brush. You just go back to the red. And I would even maybe do a practice run on my paper towel or my wax paper so you can get a good feel for it. But I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna fill in my roses. Again, if you wanted to do like a practice run on your paper towel or wax paper before you fill in your rose, you can. But all I'm gonna do is use my big brush and my red paint. I'm gonna start in the middle and do smaller C's and kind of a backward C that locks kind of on the opposite side, and then I'm going to get bigger and bigger. You can even have a rainbow shape or a U shape, but you want to constantly use your brush and constantly kind of have a nice rounded shape. And on the left side, you're doing more of a C shape. On the top, it's more of a rainbow shape, a U shape down here, and a backward C shape. So you're just kind of following the shape of the petals, but you want to constantly be moving it around with these smaller curvy lines. So again, more of these C shapes on the left side, backward C shapes on the right side, more of a rainbow shape on the top, and a U shape on the bottom. And constantly be moving your brush. You don't want to be in the same area over and over again. You want to kind of show each petal every time you use your brush. I'll do another one right here because it's going to be the same thing over and over again. So C, and just going to lock it with the other C, so it's almost like this. And then more C's on the left side, more backward C's on the right side, more rainbow shapes, more U's. And you want to completely fill in that circle with red, but be sure you're constantly moving your brush. So it's more C's on the left, more backward C's on the right, more rainbow shapes up here, and more U shapes down here. Move that brush, don't keep it in the same space. You want to kind of show each petal. Again, C, backward C, more C shapes over here, backward C shapes, kind of like that U shape, rainbow shape, U shape. Just be sure you're filling in all that space inside of the rose. You can always go back to if the shape of your rose got a little bit out of that circle. You can always outline it again and get it nice and clean. Be doing the same thing over and over again. And you're welcome to kind of continue on once you've finished a rose. C, backward C, and fill in the rest of my rows. C, backward C, rainbow, U shape. C, backward C, rainbow, U shape. For this one, I'll just kind of be doing a lot of the backwards C because I can only see the right side. I don't really see any blue peeking out of those ones. Covered up with red paint. And if you can still see a lot of the blue peeking through, you can go back and do that same kind of idea and give your red a second coat. So maybe start from where you started from before and go back over it again, like so. Same over here. Same with this shape, like so. Same over here, same over there. It's kind of be sure that you're just moving your brush. And once you're done, you don't have to wash your brush. We'll be keeping that red on there. Once you're done with your red, give them a couple minutes to dry. But you're going to use your big brush and your red paint and get a nice scoop of red and put it onto your wax paper. You're going to wash and dry your brush really well and get a scoop of white and put it on your wax paper. And this is all with my big brush. So scoop of red, clean your brush, dry your brush, scoop of white. The next thing you're going to do is add a little bit of white and red on our big brush. And we're going to kind of be doing the same thing that we were just doing. Just make sure there's just a little bit of red and white. You can even pat some off onto your paper towel. We're going to be creating almost like a pink on top of our roses. And we're going to be using that same idea, that kind of C, backward C shape, and just adding some sweeps here and there. You don't have to do as many because your roses are now filled in with that red. So if you just want to do a little bit of highlights here and there, kind of keeping with that same C, backward C motion, red, white, maybe tap some off on your paper towel, and just keep that brush moving. You don't want to be in the same spot over and over again. I'll do another one. So red, white, tap some off on my paper towel. Don't want too much on there. That kind of locking C, backward C motion, and keep that brush moving. You can just add some details or some little sweeps here and there. Keep on doing the same thing. A little bit of red, a little bit of white. Excuse me. Tap some off on my paper towel. Red and white. Tap some off on my paper towel. I'm going to add some more in this one. In a moment, we'll be adding some white on there too, just kind of on its own. But we want to go from red to pink to white, so from dark to light for our roses. C, backward C, kind of keep that motion going. And if there's an area that you don't like, you can always go back and add more red on top of it. Just wait for the red and white to dry. You can always just kind of cover it up with more red if you don't like a little sweepy area. This one, C, backward C. Just gonna keep my brush moving. There's one more right here, but I can only see the right side. So I'm just going to do more backwards C motion with my brush. Just push my brush off to the side. I'm going to give this a minute to dry, and in just a moment, I'm going to go in there with my small brush and my white paint and just kind of add some thinner lines of white in there. It does not have to be completely dry. The red, and that pink, and the white are all kind of working together. But I want to give my pink a moment to dry so I can lay the white highlight on top of it, so it's not mixing too much with the other wet paint. Take your time on your flowers. You can go back and touch them up. Now we usually give it maybe another minute or two to dry, but since we're videoing, I want to show you what to do once you're done with this step. Small brush, white paint, maybe tap some off on your paper towel so you don't have too much on there. But again, just going in there and adding some little sweeps of white here and there. So a little bit there, here. You want it to be its lighter areas, so excuse me. Go to that white that's on my wax paper and just sweep some lighter areas on there. So use. If you need more white on your wax paper, you can use your nice clean big brush and do another scoop of white on there. But a little bit less, just kind of going in there and adding some sweeps of white. Maybe anywhere from like 4 to like 8 of these little sweeps, depending on the size of your flower. I'm going to use another scoop of white on my wax paper. Pat some off. Just kind of sweeping, flicking that brush, going round and round. My roses laid out. And take your time with this step as well. Then you're going to wash and dry your brush. In a couple minutes I'll show you guys how to start your leaves. And we'll be using our green paint and a little bit of our black and white paint as well. Again, if you need to pause the video, go for it. All right. Whenever you're ready, just be very careful of your red roses because you don't want the red and the green to mix. But I'm going to use my small brush and my green paint, and I'm going to make the outline of the leaf shapes. So for this one up here, my leaf, I can just kind of see the edge or the side of this one. So I'm going to come up here to this large one, come like almost to the middle of the side. So right about here, I'm going to come up in a rounded kind of point right there. So I'm going to have it a little bit of rounded shape and then come up to the corner. For my next one, I'm going to come down a little bit. About right here, I'm going to come up, have a point on my leaf, and then come down and towards my flower. Once I'm done, I'm gonna start right here at this point, come out, and then come out, and then back in towards my flower. It's almost like I'm making pointy petals that are going all the way around. Go over these and smooth them out so you can see them a little bit better. If you catch a little bit of red, just wipe it off on your paper towel. Then between this and this one, I have another leaf. Starts in the corner here. I'm going to come out and then back in. Make this one right here. Come down. We're going to get this one to come down that way. Then between these two, I have another kind of pointy area that overlaps over the black, comes down a little bit, like so. Out, comes to a point, out, and come to a point. And this one is overlapping over the black, kind of going off to the left, like so. And this one right here is coming down a little bit. So you have all those leaf shapes right there. Just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more pointy. Make sure they look nice and clean. If you caught some of the black, that's fine. Just wipe it off on your paper towel. We'll be adding a little bit of black to our leaves later on, so not a problem. And once you're done with those shapes, you can go back to your small brush and your green paint, and from the top corner, almost like sun rays, I'm going to be coming in towards my flowers. You don't want them to really touch. They can a little bit here and there by accident, but you can have a little bit of blue showing through as well. So I'm going to kind of come in from the edges and fill in this space with greens, just as little fillers. And I'm just kind of sweeping in from the edges of my canvas. And again, it's okay if they touch the red here and there. Come all the way to this one right here. More green, more small brush. Just kind of working my way down. I'm going to get into this little space right here. Be careful of your reds. You get some on there, you can just wipe it off onto your brush. Kind of filling in all that blue space with greenery. And right here, looks like there's a little bit of green coming in. But right here, just kind of moving our brush nice and fast, small little lines, little dabs here. And a little bit of greenery right there. You can fill in this little area with greenery. So whatever blue you kind of see peeking through between the roses, you can fill in with green. Then once you're done between all those little spaces, you can go back and fill in your leaves. Just kind of moving them side to side, kind of coming towards the flowers again. Filling them all in, like so. I'm just kind of going from the corners and sweeping it towards the flowers. Get them all nice and green. In a moment, like I said, I'll be adding a little bit of black and a little bit of white to my small brush. But I want to get them all nicely filled, give them a minute to dry, and add a little bit of shadow and light with my black and white. Get in there a little bit more. like so. All right, so once you've given the green a minute or two to dry, again, if you're still working on it, not a problem. I just want to kind of show you the next step. The next step, I'm going to jump to my big brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of black and put it onto my wax paper, and I'm going to wash and dry that brush. And I'm going to take a little bit of white and put it on my wax paper, and then wash and dry. And one more. I'm going to take a scoop of that green and put it on my wax paper. So there's green, black, and white. And why don't we do 2 scoops of green, because we might need a little bit more. So 2 scoops of green, a scoop of black, a scoop of white. Be sure you are cleaning your big brush between each scoop so your paint doesn't have other colors or your black and white in it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go in there with my green on my big brush and a tap of black. Like I barely touched the black, and I'm going to tap it onto my paper towel, and I'm just going to add just little sweeps of black in there. So I'm just going to go in there, just add a little bit of black and green. So again, you want to make sure there's just a little bit of black on there, and definitely more green, and then pat it onto your paper towel and just go in there and give just little sweeps of black and white working on your big brush at the same time. This is going to give your green another coat, so it's going to look a little bit more clean as well. If you need to use your small brush for those smaller areas, you can, or just be very careful not getting on your roses. And you're just going in there and adding a little bit of that green and a tiny bit of that black. A little bit of that black goes a long ways. Tap some off onto your paper towel so you don't have too much paint on there. And you'll go back over those areas just with a little bit of sweep. And then you don't even have to clean your brush, but I do want you to go back in there with your green and a tap of your white, so just a little bit. Tap some off onto your paper towel. You'll be doing the same thing with the green and white. Tap some on. You'll just be adding some sweeps of white on there too. So you'll have that green, the green and black, and then the green and white kind of working together. Green, white. And if you wanted to go in there and add more green, just give it a minute to dry. And then you can lay the green on top a little bit more. If you wanted to add more white, it's blending in too much. Give it a minute or two to dry, and then you can go back over it with the green and white. It's adding a little bit of shadow and a little bit of light in there. It's a bit of sweeps here and there. Get everything nice and clean. This green is pretty thin, so it's kind of nice to go over it a couple times and make it a little bit more solid. Go back to my green. Perfect. All right, artists, you are done. We've done our background. We did our stripes on our vase. Then we went in there, worked on our flowers, and then kind of filled everything in with our greenery. You are welcome to go back and touch things up if you like to, but just always remember that wet paints are going to mix or blend, so sometimes you just have to wait for your paint to dry before you want to lay a color on top of it or beside it. Thank you again, and I hope we will see you guys soon.